And now, News Channel 13 brings you See Our Comeback, reopening the Capital Region. Presented by CEFCU and Concord Pools and Spas.
Good evening, and thanks for joining us. I'm Benita Zahn.
And I'm Jim Cambrick. Well, it's official. The Capital Region is now in phase 2 of reopening. As of today, hair salons, barbershops, office workers, in-store retail, and vehicle sales can reopen, but there are lots of restrictions on occupancy and social distancing.
And today we learned outdoor dining will be allowed at restaurants starting tomorrow. Tables must be 6 feet apart, staff must wear face coverings, and customers must wear masks when they're not seated. Indoor dining is phase 3, which is still 2 weeks away. Arts and entertainment make up stage 4 of the reopening process. But in Rensselaer County, the county executive is urging businesses to ignore the guidelines and reopen anyway. Today, we asked the governor what he thinks about that.
I don't think telling people to violate the law is a good idea. And somebody tells you to violate the law, that's not an excuse when you violate the law. So you still get the fine or whatever the penalty is.
Rensselaer County Executive Steve McLaughlin says he's launching a GoFundMe to help businesses pay penalties if they're fined by the state.
Coronavirus has changed our lives in many ways, from the economy to healthcare and recreation. News Channel 13 has assembled a team of experts to help guide you through the reopening process and provide an in-depth look at what the future could hold. Throughout this half hour, we'll have unique insight on mental health, personal finance, small business, and tourism.
We begin with health care. One thing is clear as we go forward. The practice of medicine is forever changed. That's because telemedicine ramped up as we were told to stay home. So the next time you hear the doctor will see you now, it may be via the internet.
Mr. Warren, my name's Dr. Haddad. Can you see me okay?
I can, yeah.
Telemedicine is having its day thanks to the pandemic.
I bent down and I felt something pop in my back.
Just calling to get you set up with your video appointment.
The popularity of this portal for healthcare as we stayed home soared so much, Albany Medical College just added a new class in how to conduct telehealth visits.
I'll schedule that for you.
How do you translate into a new situation? So that's what we wanted to give the residents experience with.
I'm feeling better.
For years, telehealth use perked along, even as increasing numbers of health insurers and private practices embraced it. So they were surprised at the surge.
Hi, can you hear me?
Since COVID, you said 2 or 3 weeks ago, we're up about 3,000%.
It was telehealth to the rescue for people like Shauna Munson. She suffers heart and kidney disease and requires ongoing care. But fearful of contracting COVID-19, she, like so many others, was reluctant to travel to her doctor's office.
My kidney specialist wanted me to hold my phone up and look at my ankles.
And now we have seen, right, in the past 8 weeks, probably about 5 or 6 years of healthcare transformation happen.
Del Vecchio says 16% of their Medicare population access telehealth now, up from 5%, and 45% of MVP subscribers are new to this platform, like Dee Watson. Sure, she had a sinus infection. She made the call rather than leave the house.
So she just asked me what was going on, and she could also see the puffiness in the middle of my face.
Just me, everybody else has been fine.
Telemedicine won't replace traditional care, but it's suited for well care, management of chronic conditions, behavioral health. It shortens the wait time to see your doctor, facilitates getting a second opinion, and reduces anxiety.
I have had in the past a situation where I sometimes pass out at the doctor's.
No such problem during Michael Eck's recent telehealth exam.
There's a greater efficiency in the interaction.
To get a better sense of what's going on.
Everybody's focused. You know, the visits are only 10 minutes long.
While one size does not fit all, this trial by Pandemic shows it is a durable way of delivering care.
As patients and providers become more comfortable with the technology, it's going to improve the accessibility and the efficiency of the healthcare system.
And we want to thank the folks at Hudson Headwaters for letting us take a look at one of those telemedicine visits. Also fueling the fast growth of telemedicine, insurance is now reimbursing doctors for these visits. And for the time being, consumers are not being billed a copay.
Coronavirus is causing an historic rise in mental health problems. Daily doses of death, isolation, and fear are generating widespread psychological trauma. Glenn Lieben runs the Mental Health Association in New York State, and he says the country system may not be ready to handle the wave.
We're going to see so much trauma, so many trauma-based issues. We saw this after 9/11. We see this after any major event like this. And again, we're in a new world, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen, but we've already seen a lot of the trauma-based issues. We can see it with the workforce. We can see our heroes who have been in the hospitals and the mental health clinics doing all that great work. And we're beginning that now that, at least to some degree, the immediate crisis has abated a little bit. We're still going to see long-term the trauma issues, and we're beginning to see that now with the workforce, recognizing how, the impact of what they've been through and what they've seen and what they've done.
If you need help, the state has set up a hotline at the number on your screen. We've also posted several resources for you on our website at WNYT.com.
Well, it's no secret coronavirus has been devastating to the economy. State and local governments are in turmoil. New York is staring at a $13 billion budget deficit. The governor has called on Washington to help with federal funding. Local municipalities are considering painful cuts to services. And in Albany, Mayor Kathy Sheehan cut her salary to zero in an effort to save the city money.
More than 40 million Americans have lost their jobs during the pandemic. Right now, the unemployment rate in some local communities is hovering at 15%. The State Department of Labor has struggled to handle the crush. News Channel 13 has talked to dozens of people who struggled for weeks to get their benefits. DOL says that they've cleared most of the backlog claims.
With the economic uncertainty, many of us are asking, what should we do with our money and investments? We asked our personal finance expert, Lisa Clifford from KeyBank, what she expects from the markets in the future.
We anticipate that, we may have not tested new lows. We are holding kind of a cash position in our portfolios. But for clients that are long-term investors, it's less about where the market's going to go in the next year. It's more about your financial plan and, what have you built in a reasonable expectation in your financial plan. And that's for most people, it's less about the short term and more about the long term.
Small businesses have been hit especially hard by the pandemic, and now they're dealing with another issue: riots and looting. Protests in the wake of George Floyd's death have led to violence in some cities, including Albany. Windows at businesses were smashed. People have broken into stores and stolen merchandise. We spoke to one business owner who says it's going to take him years to recover.
It's a huge damage. A lot of merchandise is stolen, a lot of merchandise damaged. My cash box is taken, tens of thousands of dollars, big time.
Many shops have now boarded up. The city of Albany is providing emergency aid to businesses affected by violence in the city.
The restaurant industry has been walloped by the pandemic. Since March, it endured more than $5 billion in lost sales across New York. While many establishments reinvested themselves, the head of the state restaurant industry says it's going to be a long road back.
I don't think we can undersell, what's happened to the industry. It's been huge, and we've seen 80% of the industry has laid off or furloughed their employees. So getting back to a place where we can serve our guests at any level of capacity where we were before is going to take a while. And then, staffing back up those restaurants and getting sales back to where they were prior is going to take months. So the industry's going to have a long road to hoe.
With health guidelines changing by the minute, that makes it especially tough for restaurants to develop a new business model. So what changes and what stays the same? No question about one thing, though: you either adapt or perish. Instead of pouring pints these days, Liam Slattery and his employees at O'Slattery's Pub in Delmar are making cocktail popsicles. Not exactly Irish pub fare, but it's just one of the many adaptations he's had to make sure that his business survives the pandemic.
When your food out to you at 5:30, this is my livelihood, this is how we feed our family, this is it. So we have to survive, and that's why we have to be creative and trying to do stuff like simple things like popsicles that are crazy.
Liam has taken advantage of the downtime over the last 3 months to repaint the walls, refinish and seal tabletops and countertops to make them easier to clean, and to deep clean his entire establishment. All the while thinking, how will his pub operate in the future? Possible 50% reduced seating? Will patrons be able to sit at the bar? What will the balance be like between eat-in and takeout? Takeout dramatically increased. From that, Liam created family meals, part of which is supported by customer donations. Then came the popsicles, selling them as fast as they can make them. Ingenuity, the key to survival.
I think people in general will want to come back out. I mean, the support in general we've got from Delmar and from around the areas have been phenomenal, from people buying gift cards to merchandise, supporting us in every way that we can. It's been great.
How to adapt? That is the question for just about every business in the capital region. The outlook was grim in April. Analysts predicted a good many businesses wouldn't survive. Federal payroll protection aid helped, and now many feel that will keep them going through the end of summer. But the changes we are seeing now, like curbside pickup, will be around a lot longer.
We're not going to see long lines at restaurants. We're going to see fewer people in the stores, but we're going to see, I think, more custom service.
Liam adds that he plans on adding a 20 by 30 foot tent in the back of his business to extend his outdoor dining capacity. That'll come in handy tomorrow. But now what if things change in the fall and early winter? What if we get a second wave of coronavirus? Liam says that all you can do is keep creating and keep ahead of the game.
And still to come on CR Comeback, reopening the capital region. Summer's on our doorstep, and Saratoga bills itself as the summer place to be. So what will it look like? We'll tell you what we've learned.
And many questions remain about the future of education. What will classrooms look like in the fall? Elaine Houston investigates next.
Big question here. How and when will schools reopen for in-person classes in New York State? It's the question on the minds of all parents and students. Summer school will be done through remote and distance learning. But when it comes to the fall, the governor says it's too early to make a decision. The state will be issuing guidelines this month so schools can start mapping out plans. Social distancing measures need to be taken into account for classrooms as well as cafeterias, gymnasiums, and on the school buses. All school plans will have to be approved by the state. Summer camps, well, they can reopen on June 29th. Still no decision, though, on the sleepover camps.
The new normal for some students may look similar to a type of learning that's been going on for nearly 50 years. When Excelsior College started, it used a curriculum based on distance learning. Assignments were mailed, and once completed, the students mailed them back. Well, technology has changed that, and now many are embracing online learning. Elaine Houston reports.
Before COVID-19, few of us had ever heard of Zoom, Cisco, or Google Hangouts, widely used for web business conferencing. But the call to socially distance sent more people to these video platforms as they worked from home.
I've been doing more meetings through applications like Zoom and other things.
And now that convenience may have given birth to more people deciding that online learning is for them. People who hadn't considered it in the past, like Jennifer Espy from Colony.
I have never taken an online class, so I can say I was quite nervous.
In April, she started earning a bachelor's degree from Excelsior College.
It's really actually quite easy, so that's what it's very step by steps.
And she's not alone. Excelsior summer enrollment, which started in May, has gone up 3% compared to 2019. And they have had a 37% increase in people wanting information about enrollment. But for student Leroy Green II from Columbia, South Carolina, it was about having competitive credentials once the economy turns around.
Looking at everything happening, especially with this pandemic and everything economically recently. So I said to myself, you know, this is probably a good time to try to go back to school.
Typically, people look to see whether or not they want to earn another credential or they want to complete a degree. They want to make sure that they have what they need to compete effectively in the job market.
In fact, during this pandemic, the U.S. Department of Labor says that over 40 million Americans have filed for unemployment, and some aren't sure if they'll still have a job to return to. Finally, this technology has gotten so much better that online learning offers some students access to the type of knowledge they may not get in a classroom.
We employ nearly 1,000 adjunct professors from throughout the world.
Elaine Houston, NewsChannel 13.
Still to come, returning to the salon and the barber shop.
It was one of the things missed most by people during the shutdown. We'll show you how it'll be different the next time you get a cut. Next. The state did not deem them essential services, but they've certainly been missed by many.
Salons and barbershops just got the green light to reopen for limited services and with certain safety precautions in place. Jerry Gretzinger shows us how it'll be different the next time you go in for a cut and color.
I just want to get back to work.
Bernice Van Zant owns V Salon on Western Avenue in Albany. She and others like her have had to wait for weeks to find out when they'd be allowed to reopen and what they'd be required to do.
We're spacing our clients out. We're taking longer for each person. We're taking 10 minutes to sanitize our stations in between each customer. They're going to wait in the car. We're going to let them know when it's time to come in.
They will be social distancing, keeping stations at least 6 feet apart. Face shields and masks will be mandatory. No waiting area. Van Zant will use that space to spread out her drying stations. And the requirement to test employees once every 2 weeks may not be as daunting as it sounds, according to Todd Garofano of the State Association of Salon and Spa Professionals.
Why do I need to get tested every 14 days? Why is that so restrictive? And our point is, well, you can get a test for free, right? And it's really only within, phase 2. So it may just be, maybe 1 or 2 tests, that you'll need to get.
Salons cannot yet provide their full range of services. Things like beard trimming, facials, nail services, threading and waxing, those are off the table for now.
We did not get, really any feedback from the state on why they weren't included in phase 2. They will be included in phase 3.
Van Zant will take it, happy to just get her doors open.
I think we're going to be okay. I'm confident and I'm ready.
Jerry Gretzinger, News Channel 13.
On the way, what will concerts and sporting events look like this summer and fall?
We're going to head to the Joe Bruno Stadium and the Palace Theater for a behind-the-scenes look. Next. The tourism industry is reeling. Travel, hotels, concerts, and sporting events may never be the same.
We asked our tourism expert the biggest challenge facing the industry.
Building confidence back in the traveler, making sure that they're promoting how they're cleaning, the guests are going to be safe. For the whole travel industry throughout the state, it's going to be building back confidence where people say, you know what, I'm going to go take a trip. I'm going to take my family, I'm going to go somewhere, I'm going to have a meeting with some people about the businesses that we're in. It's all about building confidence.
Heads the New York State Hospitality and Tourism Association says the major key this summer is if attractions and amusement parks can reopen, bringing people back to hotels.
The next time you head to a concert or a show at the Palace Theater, it's going to look a lot different. Jackie Slater went to the Albany venue to see what the future holds.
Albany's Palace Theater. Since 1931, this has been the site of movies, live concerts, comedy, and theater. For the last 3 months, however, the Palace has been silent. COVID-19 is shutting them down with no clear reopening date in sight.
To see her quiet and I don't want to say vacant, but asleep right now is it's a bit troubling to me.
Billy Piskets is the Palace's executive director. He and box office staff have been spending their days reconfiguring basic operations like seating, concessions, and restroom policies for a variety of reopening plans. But how to operate safely and adhere to social distancing guidelines is proving difficult for live venues all across the country. Audrey Schaefer is with the newly formed National Independent Venue Association. She says a survey of their 1,600 members showed that 90% of them say if they can't reopen within 6 months, they'll be closing their doors forever.
When these venues have got zero revenue and all of the expenses that they normally would, they just can't last.
Schaefer is hoping the feds step in with an assist, saying the survival of venues like the Palace is vital to economic recovery as a whole.
There was a study that showed that every dollar that someone spends at a small venue, they spend $12 in area businesses.
So you come down to Albany on a night that the Palace Theater has a sold-out show, everything is busy. Our restaurants, our bars, our taverns, our cafes.
Piskett says many performers forced to cancel are rescheduling for later this year or for dates in 2021. He's hoping the revenues they've lost so far can be recouped, and the Palace's lights will stay lit.
Making sure that we have a safe, clean environment is paramount. That is priority number one.
Reporting in Albany, Jackie Slater, News Channel 13.
And then the question, when's sports coming back from coronavirus? Will you be able to enjoy a game at the Joe or head to the track this summer? Roger Weiland live in studio with what can we expect?
All right, Benita, let me help you out with that. The Valley Cats season starts at the end of the month at the Joe, and right now the president, Rick Murphy, is still holding out hope that some semblance of a season will be played, even with a limited amount of fans. The Major League Baseball season, meanwhile, is still trying to figure it out, and if they're going to have a season, the minor leagues are in a holding pattern too. But Murphy told us today it's possible the Cats will play this summer.
There has been talk within the league that if we start our season sometime in July, that there is a chance we could run deeper into September. Maybe we don't have a 76-game schedule, but something in the range of 50 to 55 games is something that would be doable.
That would be great. The Belmont meet opened today. The Oklahoma training track with restrictions opens on Thursday. Tomorrow in Saratoga. The 40-day meet will start on time July 16th and run through Labor Day Monday, September 7th. The stakes schedule will be out soon, and to avoid running back-to-back against the Kentucky Derby on September 5th, there is a chance the Midsummer Derby gets moved back to the first or second Saturday in August. Fans are still a question mark there. The college football season might be the hardest to predict, but the University of Albany is still planning on beginning summer training camp at the end of July or the beginning of August, with the season starting September 5th at Delaware State. However, Mark Benson, director of athletics, told me today contingency plans are certainly in place depending on changes with the New York State guidelines. Guys, back to you.
Thanks, Raj. And thank you for joining us tonight. You can find extended interviews with our panel of experts on WNYT.com.
And we leave you with a look at the stories of hope and positivity we've covered since the pandemic started as we continue our CR comeback.